Hello. War and Peace by Leo Tolstoy is considered a literary classic. A lot of people read it and a lot of people liked it. And there are many reasons why this book is recommended. Themes of morality, the historical accuracy with the Napoleonic Wars. But here I'd like to share my reasons as to why I'd recommend reading War and Peace. The first and main reason as to why I'd recommend War and Peace is it is a good read, a damn good read. It is also a marathon to get through. There is no one person you follow. There's an ensemble cast whose lives you follow through the Napoleonic invasion of Russia. So you are forced to think, forced to focus while reading this book, which I think is a great challenge as an adult. I've spoken to other people who are older than I, who said that they were made to read War and Peace in school, which I think at that point in my life, and for them, of course, they didn't enjoy reading it because it's a monster to get through. So I'd recommend reading it because it's a wonderful challenge for an adult brain. Another reason I'd recommend reading War and Peace is language. I myself am curious about communication and therefore language. I was well aware that what I was reading was an English translation from the Russian. What I wasn't expecting was how much French, whole sentences in French in the translations that I was reading. Not just the one I have, also the abridged version, as well as one that had little books involved. I was really surprised because at the start there's a lot of French, then towards the second half of the whole story it seems to dissipate away, which I think is a nice subtle way of showing how the Russians' attitude towards the French was changing because of the Napoleonic Wars. It also is a reflection of the aristocracy not knowing Russian. This is a bit of history here, because I was well aware of the English history, how when William the Conqueror came across, he said, nope, the language of the course is French. I didn't realize the French influence had really encompassed a lot of Europe. So aristocracy would speak French, everyone else, all the peasants, would speak the common tongue, Russian, showing a dissonance, a disconnect between the castes, or can I use caste? Social classes there. One other example, but this is more for my amusement, was the formal and informal you, something that is no longer existent in the English language, still very much prevalent in other languages. I thought it very interesting to reflect some of the changing relationship dynamics just by using formal or informal you. It was nice to read. War and Peace, also in a way, is kind of a history book. You're reading about war, as it's in the title, but also just a little bit of research, and found that Leo Tolstoy went out and did his own research to get as many first-hand accounts about Napoleon and his attempts to take over Russia. That's spoiler, he tried, but did not win. Our previous exposure about Napoleon was that he was a short guy who liked to rub his tummy, and he lost the battle at Waterloo. But war, that's where I was surprised most by reading this book, because it really goes in depth, goes into the battles, the strategies, communication, a little bit of politics, and of course the horrors that come with war. If you enjoy strategies, battle strategies, you would probably enjoy this book. I would have to reread pages to fully grasp where Napoleon's forces were versus the Russians, how the weather is that day. It went very in depth. So if you've got that mind to switch on to imagine where everyone is and how the flanking positions work, it is great. Not for me, but I can see its appeal. Now from strategies, you go into the chaos of war, which it is a mess. You go into battle through the pages of War and Peace and see the pain, the panic that ensues when you're right in the battle. Even before any fighting, you get to see through other characters' eyes and experiences that ordinary people, they do not want to be part of this fight. So they pack up and leave. They're displaced from their homes. So seeing that chaos there of war, you realize that it's not on the ground, it's not as glamorous as it seems. My final point is death. Death in War and Peace. The horror of it. The loss of friends, family, even an enemy. You're reading and you're seeing that the guy is just defending himself, yet he kills someone he doesn't know, and it's not a good experience. There is one particular scene that stood out for me. I was reading where Pierre Bouzikov is captured by the French, and he's going to be executed but is saved at the last minute. But for some reason he stays and watches the execution of someone he was meant to be shot with. It was not nice. And I remember reading that. I remember having to close the book, setting it down, and just having a moment before continuing on to read, because it was a lot. And I think now with what's going on with the news, if you still watch it, reading War and Peace in a way is a good reminder of the horrors of war. So you've heard my reasonings for recommending War and Peace. Damn good story, learn about language, learn about history and war. If you are not inclined to dive right into the main text, I'd recommend watching it, reading the abridged version, and then going into the full text. I think my favorite rendition is the BBC production of War and Peace from 2016. Very well done. You'll get used to the names, used to the characters, and have a good oversight of what's happening. Then read the abridged version, and then go into the full text. Go on, have a read of War and Peace by Leo Tolstoy.